So obviously the advancements and the state of women's sports right now is not always how it's always been, right? Tell us a little bit about like what barriers women athletes faced in the past.
I mean, you see the growth of certain sports now, the National Women's Soccer League, the WNBA #1.
Right.
I remember being a fan of the WNBA and people would be like, why are you watching that? Nobody watches women's sports.
Of
and
course.
then you have that conversation about how women's players should make more like the WNBA, and the response was always, well, nobody watches the WNBA. And I'm like, but people do watch the WNBA. It's the fact that you have to give us the same platforms as other people. So I was watching the WNBA back in a time where you had to watch certain channels, the middle of the day in the summer.
Right, you had to really look for it.
Right, you had to really look for the game. Yes,
Right.
yes you did. And, you know, a lot of people were watching, but you had to work to watch. Now ESPN has picked up the WNBA, TNT has picked up the WNBA, and now people are actually watching because it's so accessible. Now they're like, oh, let's give you billions of dollars in TV rights and TV deals. And now everybody's like, oh, the WNBA has gotten better. And it's like, it hasn't gotten better. It's just
been
that,
good.
Right, it's just that
been
more
great.
people are watching. And I think that's the biggest thing happening today, because the WNBA is only 28 years old.
Right.
Lisa Leslie, first girl to dunk in a basketball game. Now we're seeing it on a college level, professional. But it's always been this good. We're
Right.
just now getting the recognition that we deserve and that the women deserve who have been on that stage. But I mean, women's sports have always been good.
Absolutely.
Better than the men.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think as a sports journalist, I'm curious to hear your take on this. Do you think that media coverage of women's sports has influenced public perception, participation, investments in women's sports?
I do and I don't. I'm on the
Okay,
fence
okay,
there
okay.
because I believe if the media had gotten onto women's sports earlier, we would be further along. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's been the players, the athletes who have been the trailblazers, athletes who have been working, you know, breaking records, making sure their recognitions are on the national stage, although the game may not have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now everybody's starting to grab onto women's sports. At the National Women's Soccer League Denver announcement, every station was there.
Oh, yeah.
And you love to see it, but had every station been pushing for, you know, a Denver team, say 10 years ago, 15
Right.
years ago,
Right.
it would be bigger than what it is now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
of
But I think the
course.
media, we report what's popping, what's trending.
Yeah.
And, you know, let's be honest, you know, lately, for some reason, everybody wants to watch, but now we're starting to report on what's trending. But I think we could have done a better job of that 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 28 years ago when the WNBA started, you know. But we're starting to adapt, and I
Yeah.
love that, you know.
Totally agree. What are some of the biggest strides that we've made to date, and what do you expect? What are you optimistic about moving forward into the future?
Strides made to date. I mean, the women's national soccer team. You like soccer.
I do. Mostly when it's Colombian soccer. Of course, but I do, yes.
But you know how dominant those women have been for the last few decades.
Oh, yeah.
More dominant than the men.
Huge. They're so good.
And a couple of years ago is when it was, oh, the women don't make more than the men, but they make it further than the men in the World Cup every year. You know what I mean?
Make it make sense.
Right.
Right.
So now sponsorships are starting to be paid to women more money. The leagues are starting to give the women more money. The national team is starting to give the women more money. Those are strides we've made. In the WNBA, the CBA agreement is coming up, and that is what determines how much they make. It went viral that Caitlin Clark was only making $75,000 for her rookie contract.
Yeah.
Well, that's about to change. They're about to make more money, but then years from now, they'll likely make more money. You know what I mean?
Right.
But one of the biggest things here locally is that Denver National Women's Soccer League investment, the stadium that they are building for those women.
It looks insane.
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 Better than the Rapid Stadium, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Totally agree. Hands down.
That's where we start. You know,
Yeah.
we make these investments. They pay twice as much as any other team has ever paid for a National Women's Soccer League team. Okay.
Wow.
You make that investment, then you build around the stadium. You build a beautiful stadium, but you build around the stadium so that people want to be there. So that entertainment district that they're planning there. Like, the right people are making the right moves, and that's how we continue to advance the game. Make the stadiums as beautiful as the men, and people will want to show up. They'll want to be there.
Absolutely.